but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past.
Good morning and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, in sunny Tyneside today. The temperatures
sunny Tyneside.
15 degrees, and I've got a special guest this morning. As you know, I like to go off and do separate interviews with different people which aren't Newcastle United related, and I'm delighted to have Andrew Tate with us today. Absolutely great to have you on, mate. And obviously your website's up there on the screen, cobratate.com. We'll be talking a little bit about that later. But yeah, big thank you to Nick, who put us in touch on Twitter. He said he thought you would be a fantastic guest. I knew exactly who you were. I watched Big Brother. I applied for it myself many years ago, but I knew you from your kickboxing because obviously I'm into me boxing and martial arts. I thought, yeah, it would be good to chew the fat for an hour with you and find out what you're up to and explain to the people on the podcast, you know, just a little bit about you and point in your direction. And I do want to start off with your website. I love this little thing on all programs where it just says success is learned. I'm Andrew Tate, retired world champion kickboxer and multi-millionaire. I grew up
nice and modest, you know, nice and humble.
I grew up broke and now I'm a multimillionaire. I teach the deserving the secrets to modern wealth creation. I don't mind anybody who can put something like that on a website when I know they can back it up. And yeah, what a life you've led, mate. And it's fascinating. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's just find out a little bit about you. Where were you brought up?
Yeah, so I'm originally American, right? My mother was English. My father was American. I grew up in just outside of Chicago till I was about 11 years old. And then we all moved to England. So I moved to Luton, lovely Luton. Doesn't get better than that. And I was in Luton for the majority of my kickboxing career. I was training there. I was living there from the age of 11 till about 27. And then in a true pessimistic style, I kind of started to believe that the Western world was on the decline as a whole, not just England, but Germany, France, America, England. I just felt like they were declining and other parts of the world were on the ascent. And I thought it's better for me to be somewhere which is on its way up than on its way down. That's a better use of my money. It's a better use of my time. So I moved to Slovakia originally, which is a very nice place, but then it's a bit small. So I've ended up here in Romania. So I live in Romania now. I'm 0% Romanian. I have nothing to do with Romania. I've just kind of rocked up. So I've been here for about 4 years. So that's the story.
Is it sunny in Romania today?
It is sunny in Romania today. Yeah. And in general, it's usually quite hot here because we're next to Turkey, right? So we do have cold winters, but we also have really hot summers. So we have really strong seasons. So it's like 35 degrees in the summer and then minus 10 in the winter. It's a bit crazy, but it's a cool place.
Yeah, we actually had quite a divisive figure on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Tommy Robinson. You may well have heard of him.
I know him. He's a Luton guy. I know him very well.
That's why I brought it up, because, you know, you lived in Luton. I mean, did you ever bump into Tommy? Ever have any experiences with Tommy, or is it just a name?
You can message Tommy right now and say you're talking to Tate, and he'll be like, "Oh, Tate, we're best." I've hung out with Tommy untold times, and you know, without getting too deep into the politics of it, because you know, I'm not saying I disagree with him or agree with him, but I'll tell you something. He's a solid guy. He means what he says. He's got a good heart. He's honest. And I think that what the establishment is trying to do to him is extremely unfair. This is kind of like, I was recently in Belarus. I was in Belarus last week, and I was talking to this Belarusian girl, and she was saying that Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, he's been the president since 1994. He's a dictator. And he refused to comply with corona restrictions. So the whole time we've been locked down in Belarus, everything's been completely normal. No masks, no lockdowns, nothing. They're living their lives completely normal. And she found this very fascinating. And she was saying, oh, but Lukashenko, and I was saying how good a job Lukashenko did, because I don't think the lockdowns were worthwhile. I think it was a joke. You've destroyed too many livelihoods for this. And she was saying, yeah, Lukashenko does some good things, but if you talk bad about him or if you upset the government, you go to jail. And that's when I mentioned Tommy. I said, no, it's the same in the West. If you talk bad and you run your mouth too much and you become an enemy of the state, they'll find a reason to put you in jail, whether you're innocent or guilty. So I don't think it's any safer in the West. Democracy doesn't protect us in any regard anyway. So I was talking about Tommy in Belarus last week. Coincidence.
Wow. Well, there you go. There you go. Well, it was an interesting podcast to say the least. I mean, growing up in Luton, and he paints a picture, I suppose, of, somewhere where he's not particularly proud of, shall we say. Would you say you've grown up with the same impression?
Yeah, I mean, Luton's not a great place, right? But I do believe that every single man of value has built his value. I think that women can be born with value. Women reproduce, right? And if you're born pretty, you're automatically valuable. You don't have to do very much. You just need to get pregnant at some point. Every man wants you because you're hot anyway, and your life is already good. But as a man, to be a valuable man, you need to have intellect, wit, intelligence, money, strength, all these things. And these things are only respectable if you've built them yourself, right? So I think that the best thing that can happen to a man is to grow up in a place kind of like Luton, or grow up in some of the rougher parts of England. Because if you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you're never going to truly be happy, and you're never truly going to be respected by the outside world. You're like, I know people, since I got rich, and I say that humbly, but since I've become rich, I've met a lot of rich people who were born rich. And there's nothing about them. They have no grit as an individual. They have no resistance to the outside world. They're depressed or stressed because of minor crap. Like, they don't. I'm from Luton, right? So and now I'm a millionaire, and now you're gonna come at me with a problem. Whatever. But these people literally can't handle the world, and they don't appreciate money. They don't appreciate their lives. I think the best life someone can have is starting relatively low down and working your way up, because it's only the progression of life which is interesting, right? It's not the end goal; it's the progression. So I'm glad I was raised in Luton.
I would agree with that. I mean, for me, being raised in Tyneside, and, you start at the bottom, don't you? It doesn't matter whether you're working class or middle class. You're still not upper class, and you're still not somebody who's got a few quid in your pocket. You've got to earn it. And I do enjoy that challenge. And for me, it's not about money. Money doesn't give me happiness. It's about the success. It's about the, setting a target and, getting to that target and then going beyond and finding the next one. And life's about experiences. If you don't have those experiences, you don't want to be sitting in your rocking chair when you get to your 70s and 80s regretting it. And that's the way I've always led my life,
Yep. Completely agree. And like, I recently bought a very expensive car, too expensive. I'm an idiot. I bought a Bugatti. And when I was at the Bugatti dinner, everyone else there was either daddy's money or oil money, right? And they had no respect for anything. Like to me, it was a massive deal. Because they'd never ever been poor, they had no respect for it. So it's kind of like, you can be a working class man and sit down with a cup of tea at the end of the day, and you'll enjoy that cup of tea more than this oil billionaire will enjoy his $5 million car, because they have no respect for anything. So if you don't respect something, you can't value anything. If you don't value anything, you can't be happy. It's kind of like if you're in a car traveling at 100 miles an hour, it doesn't feel fast, right? But when you're accelerating to 100, it feels fast. That's how life works. It's not about being in a particular place. It's about getting there. That's the only part that's fun. Being there is whatever. So if you're born with it, then I think life can be kind of sad. So yeah, I'm super happy I grew up broke in Luton on free school dinners. I'm super happy for that. And I'm not happy now that I have money. I'm happy that I've worked really, really hard, like you said, and achieved goals, whatever, whether they're kickboxing or financial or whatever. That's all life's about. That's all life's really about.
What were you like at school? Were you a scholar? I mean, I was a bit of a class clown. I've got to be honest. If I could go back, I would probably change a few things, but it was character building, certainly. But what was your school life like?
That's a good question. So I was always very intelligent. I always did well, but I did not do nearly as well as I should have, because I didn't really believe in the establishment. I don't know where I got this rebellious streak. But from the very beginning, I'm talking about from the age of 13, 14, I understood, or I believed, that school was bullshit and would not make me rich. I remember saying to my teacher, I was in Luton, right? And there was these two Asian lads, don't tell Tommy, but these two Asian lads, and they had a Lamborghini, and I was at the BP, the petrol station at night, and they were in the Lambo, and I was in my friend's Corsa. We were in a normal car. And I said to my friend, when you look at them in their Lamborghini, do you think he studied hard in school, or do you think he's a drug dealer? And my friend said, drug dealer. I was like, doesn't this prove to everyone that nobody believes you get rich from school? Nobody believes it. I said this to my teacher. He's like, no, but if you go to college and you go to university. I was like, whoa, I'm going to be 20, what, 25? What? No, I want money now. I don't have time for this junk. So I never really tried. I passed every grade with C's and B's. I could have got A stars easily, but I didn't believe in the whole system. And even now, to this day, I don't believe in the system. I'm very anti-government. I'm very anti-bank. I do not believe any of the things we're told or taught in school are useful. I don't believe any of the stuff on the news, even things about wealth creation. You just mentioned my website. People talk about how to make money. I have people come to me all the time, and all of their ideas about how to get rich never worked for me. And I'm not saying they wouldn't work for you, but the way I got rich was completely separate to everything I was told. I was told to make money, save money, buy a house. And yeah, that worked 30, 40 years ago. But look at the average price of a house now compared to wages. Buy a house? What? It's going to take me 25 years to buy that house. Like, I want to be rich now. So I think a lot of the things are outdated. A lot of the things they teach are specifically designed to put you in a state of mind where you just obey and comply. This is what I believe school is for. It's to train worker ants. And I didn't want to be a worker ant. So my teacher would always sit there and go, Andrew, you're the biggest waste of potential I've ever seen, because you could be so smart, but you just don't listen. Well, I'm smarter than you now, bitch. So
yeah, well, listen, I think school's not for everybody. I mean, I had personality clashes with a lot of my teachers, but the one teacher that changed my life was somebody who let me read a book off the curriculum. He allowed us to study a book about the craze, The Profession of Violence by John Pearson. Ultimately, I then studied that book, passed my English exam, and then I went to visit the craze in prison, and I ended up being a business advisor for 10 years. Bizarre story, but it shaped my life and put me on a path. What path did you want to go on when you left school? And were you eager to get into work? Did you go into a family business? What did you do?
Yeah, so when I finished school, I did go into a family business. My uncle had a fishmonger's, and I used to carry boxes of ice and boxes of fish from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. for 40 quid a day in the cold, heavy boxes of fish. That was it. And I wanted to be a kickboxer, right? Because I started to fight. I started to train to fight. But truly, I've always had the mentality that I just want money. I just want money. I don't believe in the idea that you need to be passionate about something to become rich from it. Do you think the billionaires who sell concrete are passionate about concrete? No, they like money, right? So if you're passionate about money, then you can be passionate about anything that makes a profit. So even from a very young age, I wanted money. I don't know where I got this streak. It's the competitive element in me, right? I think it's for the same reason I love to fight. But I remember I went to college. I finished school. I went to college. I didn't go to university. But I remember walking to college, and a guy drove past me in a Ferrari. And I said to my friend, look at that Ferrari. And he goes, yeah, nice car. And I said to him, doesn't that bother you? And he's like, why would it bother me? I was like, because this guy, he knows something about the world that we don't know. Like, the idea of us saving $400,000 or whatever for this car is insane. What does he know that we don't know? There's a hack in the matrix. There's a glitch. Something's happening, and we're missing out. And he called me crazy. But even back then, I was just annoyed at the fact. I was like, well, no, I want things, and I want freedom, right? I think that's what a lot of it comes down to, is I wanted freedom. So I was always obsessed with trying to find a way to make money. And I very foolishly believed that fighting would make me money. But you and I both know that's the hardest career in the world to try and get a payday from. So, yeah, I was carrying fish boxes and fighting at the beginning. That's kind of how it started.
It's got a touch of the Rockies about it. I can just see you punching like a huge shark carcass, like Rocky. He was punching those big chunks of meat. But I mean, what made you take up that kind of game, the fight game? Because when you read a lot of people's books, it's either down to being bullied or it's down to wanting to take up a sport. Which was it for you?
So the only part of the story that's not been said yet is that my father is a chess master. My father was a chess grandmaster. So when I was in America, I was very, very heavily into chess. So I was state chess champion age 6, and I was training on my way to become a grandmaster. I would have been a grandmaster by the time I was 12 if I continued training with chess. And so I was doing competitions every weekend. I was always competing. And chess is a game in which there is no luck. It's one-on-one, and it's very brutal. It's a brutal game. So when I moved to England, my chess career kind of ended because my father was most of the time still in America, coming back and forth. I didn't have a coach anymore. Also, chess is not very big in England like it is in America. In America, chess is all the schools and stuff, and I was getting scholarships from chess. There's none of that in England. So all the chess ended. So I was looking for something else, which is one-on-one, which is brutal, which is there's no luck involved. And most sports aren't like that, right? You can have a bad day on the soccer field, but your team can help you or your team can save you. Whereas with chess and with fighting, there's not. So I was just trying to replicate chess and I chose fighting. And a lot of people seem to think that's a big jump. Like, why would you go to fighting when you were a chess player? But to me, they were very, very similar. So that's kind of how it went. I was like, well, I can't play chess. Let me go learn how to fight. And I ended up in an MMA gym, and then I ended up sticking with kickboxing. So.
Yeah, with kickboxing, I mean, for me, boxing's always been my game. I trained as a youngster. I didn't fight. I didn't take it up as a sport. I was always into football. But yeah, I mean, did you start off at an amateur level first and then work your way up?
Yeah, so I was stupid, right? So I just Googled Luton no rule. I wanted to be a cage fighter because I'm a teenager, right? So I Googled Luton no rules fighting, and I found my coach, who I stayed with my entire career, is a Bosnian guy. He's from Sarajevo. And I turned up, and it was him and 5 other Bosnian guys in this dingy little room. That was it. That was the only fight gym that we had. And he said, "Can you fight?" And I was like, "I think so." Put gloves on. He knocked me clean out. And I just kept turning up like an idiot, right? So my first fights were cage fights. I had 7 cage fights. And then I had at the time, K1 was really big back then. I sound like an old man now, but K1 was really big, and I got paid more to do kickboxing, and I signed a kickboxing contract, which wouldn't let me fight MMA. And I ended up sticking with kickboxing, became 4-time world champion. So I fought all around the world, fought in 15 countries. So yeah, it was just a matter of, you can't half do fighting, right? You're gonna if you're gonna fight, you have to live it. So that's what I did. I decided, you know what? I'm going to live fighting. I'm hoping it's going to pay me some money. And on the side, I was always trying to make some money. I always had these business ideas and schemes. I was always trying to do this and that, as well as fighting. But that's kind of how I lived for a good 10 years, just struggling to pay the rent. You know, even as a world champion kickboxer, it's not like boxing. You know, like I'd make for a fight, let's say 50,000, which sounds like a lot, but you're fighting twice a year. You got to pay your manager. You got to pay your rent. You got to pay your car. You're not rich. I wasn't Anthony Joshua or anything like that, you know. So it was a hard life for a while.
You won a few titles. I mean, obviously, you know, the different weight categories, etc. But you did quite well, didn't you? I mean, 2009. You know, you was it light cruiserweight champion, cruiserweight champion 2009, British cruiserweight champion, and then so on and so forth. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you have to be dedicated to get to that level.
Yeah. And the worst thing about kickboxing is the big money is in tournaments, and tournaments is 3 or 4 fights in one night, kind of like prize fighter. So all the big money is 3 or 4 fights in one night. So the few times I got big paydays, let's say 100, 150,000, I had to have to win 3 fights in one night. And no matter how good you are, there's always a degree of luck to that, right? Because you might have the hard guy at the beginning, or at the beginning, you might be fighting, and just by coincidence, the guy throws loads of low kicks. So even though you win the fight, by the end of it, your legs and your shins are completely annihilated. Now you can't move properly, you can't walk properly, and you got 2 more fights to go. Like there's a bunch of luck involved in tournaments as well. And just the way kickboxing works is it's all tournaments. So there's been plenty of times I had to fight 2 or 3 times in one night to try and make money. But I was always trying to make money on the side. And when I eventually, I say I retired, I took about a 4-year hiatus. I actually fought twice this year or last year. I came back.
Last year, yeah, 2020.
I came back and kicked some ass again. But I took a 4-year hiatus. And the reason I took a hiatus is I was like, look, I'm giving this 6 hours a day, 6 days a week of my energy. I'm tired of this now. I need to find a way to get rich. I want to be rich. I don't know why. I just thought I want more freedom. I'm tired of fucking struggling to pay the bills. And if I take these 6 hours a day I'm spending in the fight gym and put them towards something else, I think I can make some money. So that's kind of what I did. And it worked out okay in the end. So.
Is that right that you challenged Jake Paul?
Oh yeah, I challenged Jake Paul.
What was the situation there then?
So Jake Paul made the call out video. Did you see when he called out Conor McGregor?
I did, yeah.
And he disrespected Conor McGregor. Here's the thing here's the mistake that everybody's making about Jake Paul. Because I put this on my Twitter account. You can go back and verify. You know I don't lie anyway. I said Jake Paul's going to finish Askren in 30 seconds. And everyone's like, whoa, Askren's a fighter, blah, blah, all this crap. I knew Jake Paul would smoke him because Jake Paul is the person I used to be. He's a cocky, arrogant young man who's training his ass off. You think Jake Paul isn't training? They're like, oh, he's just a YouTuber. He's training with Canelo and Ryan Garcia. They're making out like he's just some retard YouTuber. The guy is training his ass off. He's not running his mouth to people without training. He's getting in there to win. And someone like Ben Askren with no striking skills, of course he's going to get sparked. So I made the point to Jake Paul that, look, you're very lucky that you can make millions and millions of dollars from fighting right from the get-go because you're an internet clown. That's what you are with your little YouTube channel. There's a whole bunch of people out here who are much better than you who can't even pay the rent. And for all of their sake, I want to kick your ass because you've had it easy. Of course you can train hard and win, right? You're getting millions and millions of dollars per fight. You're not even fighting anyone good. So I made a video that called him out after the Conor McGregor thing, and it went viral on the internet. But he didn't reply to me because he knows that he doesn't want it. He doesn't want the smoke. I'd have to train. I'd train hard, but I'd certainly beat him.
Just on Conor McGregor, Armin's asking, any predictions on McGregor versus Poirier 3?
I think that McGregor is now in charge of his own training camp. And in my experience, I always train the hardest when I was not the boss. When your coach comes and says, you must do this. No, I'm tired or this hurts. I don't care. Do this more. I think Conor's like chosen to do what he wants to do and is not doing what he doesn't want to do. And for that reason, I think it's going to struggle for him to be as good as he was. That's what I think, but we'll see.
Yeah, okay. We've got one thing in common. Well, two things in common. Apart from being involved in the fight game to different degrees, me professional boxing, you kickboxing. Big Brother, of course, something which I applied for very, very early on in the series that Jade Goody was in. And wow. Amazing. And I went through the whole process. I got down to the last 24, but unfortunately, at the time, I felt didn't get picked by the producers at the hotel. And I look on it now and think, wow, I had a lucky escape. You didn't quite have a lucky escape. You actually were known as the other housemate when it was broadcast on Channel 5, season 17, I think it was. And quite a controversial appearance for you as well. What in 2016? What happened there?
Yeah, so I got in the house. I ended up getting kicked out after 11 days, which is, I'll tell you the story of that. But the Big Brother house is a unique place because they deliberately choose. I mean, there's the odd exception, right? There's people like me or like you who would have been seen as, because the producer even told me this. They choose people they see as like mentally resilient. And then they also choose the complete opposite, the complete mentally fragile. So you have this polarity that makes the show good, where some people are just like, what's the big problem? And someone else is having a full-on mental breakdown, right? So a lot of the people you're in the house with are children. And when I say children, I mean they're emotionally children, like crying that they missed their family after 2 days, panic attacks, dumb crap, like over nothing. Like just these are the most mentally fragile people that applied to the auditions. That's why they got picked. So you're in a house with a bunch of idiots, and they deliberately make it very difficult. There's very little food. I'm sure you meet your minimum calories per day by law, right? But when you have that many people in the house and like someone grabs a snack, or there's never enough food, so you're hungry, is the first thing. The lights stay on 24/7, and the lights are studio lights, so you can't sleep because they're too bright. The house is too hot on purpose. They keep the heating on. So you're hungry, you're hot, you're tired, and they're trying to just torture you into having mental breakdown. That's the whole point. They want you to scream and cry like a baby, right? And so it was interesting for me the few days I was in there. I didn't really say all that much. I was very observant, trying to work out where the true weak links were. And then eventually there was two houses. They moved me from one house, the other house, to the main house. And when I walked in there, I decided to cause chaos. And I walked in there and said, look, I've been watching all of you, all of your what do you call it when you go talk to the diary room, whatever.
Yeah, the diary room. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been watching all your diary rooms and watching you all in real time from the other house. You're all snakes and you all bitch about each other because I've been seeing it all. I don't trust any of you. It's my first words. And the house erupted. I think you can still find it on YouTube. The house erupted. It went nuts. All the dudes started threatening me. So like trying to act like tough guys. They obviously didn't know my pedigree, right? They didn't know who I was. So the whole house went nuts. And what happened after this is there was these two vegan girls. They were vegan and they were completely just they needed, the producers brought in a plant for them to stroke because the grass was fake. And they said if they don't touch plants, they lose their life force. Like they were completely whatever. And the vegan girl said that I had a reptilian energy and she was scared of me. So she quit. I didn't even talk to her. I didn't even know I didn't even talk to her. So she quit. And then these other guys in the house all started white knighting for her, right? Like these other four guys, like, you picked on Emma. I was like, picked on Emma? I literally have never said a word to Emma in my fucking life. I just came in and told you you're all idiots, which you are. Like, what's the issue? So anyway, these four guys, it got to a point where they started threatening me. And the diary room went off. I went to the diary room and they said, look, Andrew, we need a guarantee from you in the event of a physical altercation that you'll wait for security. And I was like, no. The rules of the house are that no one attacks anyone. Because these four idiot men feel tough in their little gang, and now they think you know there's going to be a fist fight. You're telling me to pull a Floyd Mayweather until security turns up. No, if anyone touches me, I'm going to smash their face in. No one should touch me. I'm not going to touch them. You're not asking me to not attack them because you know I have control, right? Because I have self-control, you know I'll never attack them. But you don't trust these babies to not try it with me. So anyway, we got into a disagreement with the producer, and then eventually they just booted me out for some unknown reason. And the truth was, they realized across months, sooner or later, one of these guys is going to swing and get hurt. And they just thought, look, we have to kick someone out. Better to kick one guy out than all five of the other dudes. So I had to go. That was the end of my big brother story after 11 days. So I was just too calm, too collected, and I could fight too well. So they kicked me out. I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't hurt nobody. But that's the story.
Well, I mean, the whole process was always shrouded in mystery. I mean, I didn't, as I say, I didn't get as far as you did, but I did give advice the following year to a guy who went on to win it. And you know, from my perspective, another guy who was working, I was doing security at the time, doing the door, I gave advice to him, and he did get into the house, but then got rejected in another one of those twists that he used to do. But Anthony Hutton actually won Big Brother. He went through the whole process after me and him sat down, had a coffee, and well, you know, fair play to him. I still seem to these days, good guy, still lives in the Northeast, but there was always that suspicion as well that you had this master plan. Was that a bit of kidology on your behalf?
I did have a plan, and my plan was to absolutely sow anarchy. Like when I first walked in there and I upset everybody. My plan was to make sure everyone was as miserable as possible because I knew that I am too mentally resilient to be affected by negativity in a house. Like I don't know these people. A lot of these people after 3 days are hugging and saying, wow, we're a family now, like a bunch of crap. I didn't know these people. I don't like these people, right? So I just wanted misery. That was my plan. I just wanted to upset everybody because I believed I would have most influence over the situation if all these people are too busy crying to realize what's really going on. So my plan was always to cause issues from the start. I was definitely deviant. I definitely wanted to upset everyone. When all those guys wanted to fight me, I loved it. I wasn't intimidated. I thought it was great. Like I was just chilling. I was just like, well, anytime, any place you can swing for. I'm chilling on the couch. Come. But the producers got very scared once they realized that I was too good at annoying these dudes. And eventually one of them was going to make the mistake. And then when they tried to get me to sign a piece of paper that I wouldn't protect myself, that was just insane. That was the end of it. So,
crazy.
That's the end of your brother. That's how it goes.
Crazy times, yeah. I mean, the series I ended up not getting into had some big names. They picked Johnny Reagan, the fireman, over me from County Durham. Good lad. He ended up as runner-up. But Kate Lawler, Jade Goody, God bless her, Adele Roberts, Alison Hammond, all in the house. And as I said, my good pal Spencer Smith as well was in there as well. But yeah, I count that as a lucky escape. I've got to be
You didn't
perfectly
miss
honest.
anything, my friend. You didn't miss anything.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Let's talk a little bit about your website. Obviously, you've got it up there, cobratate.com. Tell us a bit about it, because there's a lot on there for people to take in. What's the idea behind the website and what you do now?
Yeah. So when I was talking a bit about my history, like we were, when I was 22, 23, I remember watching The Matrix. And, you know, in the scene in The Matrix where you see Neo and he downloads all those programs to his brain that teaches him how, like, he knows Kung Fu, or he knows how to fly a helicopter, or all this stuff. I was like, where can I learn? I want something where I can just learn the things I'm interested in. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do a 4-year degree. I just want to know the things I'm interested in. Like, I want hot girls and money and like all the things I want. Where do I get this from? And it didn't really exist. And that's kind of why I put this website together, is that after I became successful quite unorthodox in a lot of different ways. But I feel like there's some things I can teach, right? So I teach people about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, that kind of thing. We have a DeFi guide on there that teaches everyone how to make money with that. We have, I for a long time, I ran a webcam studio. So I had girls who would sit and talk on the internet, you know, like the chat lines. So I'd have girls who sit and talk on the webcam. So I have a course there that teaches like the psychology. It's not so much about how to get a girlfriend. It's about the psychology of when you have 75 women working for you, you learn a little bit about how women think and how women are programmed, right? And how is best to make them listen to you, I guess, effectively. Not in a horrible, manipulative way, in a complete opposite. So I teach that on there. So it's kind of like my life knowledge is kind of what I was looking for when I was young. It now exists. If you want to find out how to do certain things that the world won't teach you, it's kind of a lot of it's taught on cobratate.com. And then we also have the War Room, which is a network. We have a network with over 1,000 people in it from all around the world. And this is people who, a lot of them are already very rich. A lot of them are already very successful, but it's also guys who are on their way up. And this is just about, I think the world is changing. You'll probably agree with this and understand this, especially after speaking to Tommy. The idea of a social network for everybody is disappearing. Too many people are getting banned. Too many people, you're not allowed to say certain things. And I think that social groups and social networks are getting smaller. And that's kind of what the War Room is. It's a group for people who think like me, people who want to live a masculine life and conquer the world and do what they want and no political correctness. And, you know, and we all work together. So that's kind of what it is. It's its own little social network. So that's kind of the website in a nutshell. That's what it is. I mean, it's not my main income, but it certainly is amazing for me, especially the War Room. There's so many good guys in there that have even helped me. I was in Belarus last week. We had 2 Belarusian War Room guys. I needed a negative COVID test. 2 minutes later, it comes in my email. It's cool to have that kind of network, you know. So it's awesome.
On the website as well, you know, you've got the PhD program, and as I was scrolling down through that, I did find the hours of video content, you know, offer for, you know, getting more positivity with women. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who probably end up watching this, you know, would probably be very interested in that, because, you know, not every guy is confident with a woman.
Yeah, and I've had a few people come at me and go, "Why do I need your help to get a girlfriend? I don't need your help to get a girlfriend." And it's not about that. The PhD course is about how I ran my webcam studio, right? So yeah. I had women who would work for me and make $100,000 a year and give it all to me effectively in return for rent and food effectively. So how do you convince a woman to want to give you all her money? How do you convince a woman to want to obey you? Why would a woman share you with other women? Like there's certain insights in there, which I learned through my career with a webcam company. And that's basically what it is. It's hours and hours of me discussing my webcam company, how it worked, why some girls quit, why some girls stayed, what makes girls happy, what makes girls angry, what to do if what I would do if a girl was not listening to me or screaming at me, or et cetera, et cetera. And I think in the world we live in now, all jokes aside, the world we live in now is very, very hostile, and it's very, very dangerous for men, especially in the Western world. In England, you have to be very, very careful. Like your woman can go and fuck your best friend, but if you scream at her too loud, you're abusive. And it's like you have to be very careful now, because the law is absolutely on their side. From a divorce perspective, from an abuse perspective, from anything. If the girl calls the police for any reason, you're going to lose. So you need to be very, very careful how your interactions with women work as a whole. And that's what I teach in the PhD course. I make it very, very clear. Like I never raised my voice. I never scared anyone. I never hit anyone, nothing like that. It's the complete opposite. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say manipulation, but very convincing. So that's kind of how it is. So yeah, you as a man in the Western world, you have to be careful nowadays about a lot of things, but interactions with women is one of them. You have to be careful about that.
What are the tales of Wu Dan?
So these are stories I wrote. I wrote these stories back in my fight days when I was fighting and I was too tired to leave the house because of training. I was exhausted. I wrote some stories and they're all on there. I think they're on the website. If not, you can message the live chat and they'll send them to you. And they're stories I wrote. And I'll leave it at that. I'll let people go discover for themselves. So there's some stories I wrote. I guess, am I an eclectic person? I don't know. I write stories. I play chess. I fight. I do a lot. I run a webcam studio. I do a lot of crazy different things, right? But yeah, there's some stories I wrote and they all have a lesson. So it's kind of like, did you ever watch, remember that TV series Kung Fu? You remember that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Kind of like that, you know.
David Carradine walking across the desert with that eerie music.
Wouldn't that be a cool life, though? I've always kind of thought that'd be cool, just to wander around the earth and just get in adventures and meet people. But I guess life's not really that fun. If you start walking in a random direction, it's pretty boring. But Kung Fu made it look fun.
Yeah, we were lucky. We had all of those kind of things, didn't we? We had Kung Fu, we had Monkey, which I often talk about on this show. We had Water Margin. Do you remember that?
Yeah. The good old days. The good old days.
And
maybe that's why I moved to Romania. I kind of enjoy feeling lost. I've always enjoyed feeling a bit lost. I know that sounds stupid, but I like to feel comfortable. But I kind of like the feeling of looking on a map and thinking, what am I doing here? I kind of like that. And I've found Romania now. And I think Romania is a very good combination of lots of aspects of different countries. I'm pretty happy with it here. And I'm very surprised by it. A lot of people, my friends in London, go to me, "Are you okay in Romania? Like, you got this fast car and these nice watches. Are you okay in Romania?" I said, "My friend, are you okay in London? Don't worry about me. Worry about you." Like, there's far more violence in London than you'll ever find here. So.
You touched on it a little bit earlier about the network of guys, you know, and the war room is obviously something which again is on cobratate.com. Have a look at it. It's about networking, I guess, isn't it? Network and like-minded people.
Yeah, I think your network is your net worth, right? So if you were in a room full of ice cream experts and all they talked about was ice cream, even if you had no interest in ice cream, eventually you're going to learn about ice cream. You're going to end up hearing so many things about how ice cream is made, how it's stored, how to make the different flavors, the different shaped boxes it can go in, how you transport it, whatever. You're going to accidentally end up knowing a bunch about ice cream, right? So when you're in a group of people who are all about the same thing, which is in the war room, we're looking for freedom, right? And that takes two things. One is financial, because it's easier to be free if you have money. But then also, once you have money, how do you move your money, hide your money? Lots of other ways, right? And then secondly, the other thing we're big on is nationalities and passports, because we live in a world now where the idea of living off grid is impossible. You can't go live in the forest by yourself. That doesn't matter. You can't do that. You're always going to have a passport and a national insurance number and a driver's license. So the second best thing to being off grid is to be on as many grids as possible. So I have 7 passports, and that's taken me a long time to get. But I have specifically gone to countries and sat there and gone through all the hoops and fought and did whatever it took to get the passport. I've specifically looked up my ancestors, found out the ancestor route. My great-great-great-great-grandma was half this. Let me apply there via ancestry to get a passport. It's amazing how far you can get. And what's crazy is during this Corona scam, and I'll call it a scam, during this Corona scam, I've been traveling the entire world. I've been to 13 countries last year during travel bans. Well, how did I do that? Because if they say that the English are not allowed to fly, I don't use my English passport. If they say the Americans are not allowed into X country, I will use another passport. If you have 7 passports, you're 7 nationalities, you're 7 people. So I could go wherever I wanted because always one of my passports would work, right? You can also translate this across driver's licenses. I have 7 driver's licenses. So if you want to ban me, ban what? You can ban me all you want. I'll keep driving. So like, I think it's really important for a man now to understand that money is good, but if you want true freedom, you need to be able to remove the control a government has over your life. And that's what happens when all your documents and all your nationalities is with one government. That government controls you. Corona, I was doing this before Corona, and people called me crazy. But Corona has proved how right I was. Look what they've done to people in their countries because of Corona. Locked them up, won't let them leave, won't let them go anywhere. I was walking around. Romania had lockdowns. I was ignoring them, walking around, getting fines on an Estonian passport. How are they going to enforce a Romanian fine on an Estonian passport? They're not going to do anything. Like, so I have freedom that others don't have because I'm prepared for it. And the world we live in now is going to become more and more constricted. This Corona crap was just a test for the future. It's going to become more and more constricted. And if you don't have a network like the War Room with people who are teaching you how to make money remotely, make money online, hide your money, get different nationalities, get different passports, get a vaccine certificate if you don't want to get the vaccine, get driver's licenses. This is the only way you're going to ever be free in 10 years from now. I can guarantee it, because Corona's proved it. Everyone was messaging on Instagram. How did you get into this place? How did you go into that place? How did you go there? Just flash the right passport. You got to have more than one because they're trying to lock us all down, my friend. I don't want to go conspiracy theory, but I've seen it, and they're trying to restrict us more and more. Soon they're going to take cash away, and it's going to be a cashless society. And it's just going to, all they want men to do is just to pay taxes and die. They don't want us to be happy. We're tax slaves, right? We're the backbone of the economy. It's the men that do the real work. They want us to build the roads and build the skyscrapers, pay our taxes, and die. That's all they want us for. And if you want freedom and happiness, you need to find a way to get it. And that's what the War Room's for. That's my little, I wouldn't say a pitch, but I'm trying to explain what the goal of the War Room is. The goal of the War Room is men who are like-minded, who are looking for freedom. And we have members in 50 countries, so we're global as well. So we're pretty big.
And I mean, obviously, you meet up. I suppose you have meetings and get-togethers. And I mean, do you get up and talk at these meetings, or do you get guest speakers?
Yeah, so it's primarily an online organization, but we do have 5 meetings a year. The next one's actually next week in Miami. I'll be there in Miami next week. So we are having a Miami meetup. Each meetup has a specific focus. So some of them are focused specifically around nationalities and getting passports. Some of them are specifically about financials, how to make money. Lots of different things. So there's different meetups you can attend, but I'm always there. Sometimes we have guest speakers or other members of the War Room themselves who are expert in fields. Like, there's people in there who know things I don't know. That's what's so brilliant about it. Even I've learned from it, right? We have some guys in there which are so deep into Bitcoin and this crazy stuff. Like, I understand it a bit. These guys are just well down the rabbit hole. I guess you could call them nerds, but they're very, very rich nerds. So you wouldn't call them one, And they're giving advice to the entire group, and everyone's making a bunch of money. And there's a lot of people in there who know how to do a lot of different things. We have, you name it. We have police officers in Dubai. We have Japanese tattoo artists in Tokyo. You name it. We got people from all walks of life in there. But it's a cool organization. But we're all aiming for the same thing, and that's, we want to try and find a way to stay sovereign in a world which is trying very, very hard to remove the sovereignty from the individual. That's what they're trying to do. And we're trying to combat that the best we can via our network. That's what the War Room's about. Okay,
you've obviously got a good social media presence. You also have a YouTube channel which people can subscribe to, Tate Confidential. Almost 23,000 subscribers on there. For you, is that important? Having good social media presence. Despite what you were saying earlier on, is it still important for you to be able to get your message out via these different social media platforms? Because again, with this reset, I suppose, that you're talking about, it tends to be anybody with an alternative view gets shut down these days.
Yeah, and you really have to walk the line now. You have to walk the line very carefully. I've got two YouTubes. I've got Tate Confidential, which is kind of like a day-to-day vlog of my lifestyle kind of thing, how a millionaire idiot spends his money. And then you have Tate Speech, which is where I talk about issues and I talk about topics, but I have to semi-censor myself. Right? Because like we said, you have to walk the line. Unfortunately, these companies have got a complete monopoly. And the second unfortunate point is that I believe we live in an attention economy now. I believe that the economy we live in is based on attention. If you can find a way for people to pay attention to you, you will be rich. Look at Jake Paul. He didn't have to learn how to box very good. He already had attention. He's turned it into money. Rihanna can launch a perfume tomorrow. It can smell terrible. It will still make money. Why? Because it's Rihanna. You have to we now live in an attention economy. The idea of how to make money now has changed so much in the last 10 to 15 years. You need to find a way to make people be interested in who you are as an individual and listen to what you say. And social media is obviously very, very important for that. You need attention if you want to, because that attention can be garnered and can be leveraged for financial gain and for influence. So yes, I like my YouTube channels. I want to keep them. I try and be as controversial as I can. Not controversial for the sake of controversy, but controversial because the truth is often controversial, right? I try and be as truthful as I can without getting banned, but who knows how long it's going to last. But yeah, this is the world we live in now. And they're slowly, little by little, like you said, if you step too far out of line, you're going to get banned. I said a few things about Corona and they took the video down. They didn't like my views on Corona. So you have to be very, very careful. There's certain subjects you're not allowed to make people think. You can't wake certain people up. They have to keep them, in the slave mind. And they try very hard to. The people who are in charge of the world, their only thing they're afraid of is the slaves waking up. So they have to make sure nobody does that. So they delete the video.
Okay, my guy says, when will the new Take Confidential episode be uploaded?
Yeah, we usually do about 1 or 2 a week. It all depends. So there won't be that long. Probably in a couple of days there'll be another one up there. They're about a month behind. So all the stuff's been filmed, et cetera, et cetera. So in a couple of days there'll be another one up there, and you can watch us run around the world, breaking all the lockdown restrictions, breaking the quarantine rules. We've tried very, very hard to break every Corona rule we could. We went out of our way to break Corona rules, and we've done a pretty good job of that. So we've just been breaking every single restriction, breaking every single rule. And it's also kind of funny throughout the Take Confidential series, at the very, very beginning of the lockdowns, like a year ago when they got really strict at the very beginning, Sweden never locked down. And we moved to Sweden for 2 months. And we lived in Sweden, and then we drove through Europe because you couldn't go to any country in Europe, right? But they can't prevent you from going home to where you live. And we have residency in Romania. So we could drive through all of Europe and saying, because Romania is the very end of the EU. We're going to Romania, we're going home, but we weren't. We were just stopping wherever we wanted and just parking the car and jumping in hotels. So we were running around breaking all these rules. And throughout the Take Confidential series, you see me, I take about 20 Corona tests throughout the whole series. Never at any point do I have Corona. I've never put a mask on. I've been partying the whole time. I'm not saying Corona isn't real, but I'm just saying that, I mean, if I did have it, I didn't even have a sniff. Like, no, I've been perfectly healthy all year long. It's kind of crazy what they've done to the world, and I think it's just a power grab. I don't want to get too conspiracy theory, but they love power, and this is a good excuse for them to get more power, and that's what's really happening. But yeah, that's the Take Confidential series. You can see our last year during the lockdowns, and how we disobeyed every single one. So
okay, Richard's just wanting to know: did you ever live in Suffolk or near an air base?
Yeah, that's a good question. No. The arcade machine I had looks like a belt.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. What is the arcade machine?
Yeah, so no, my accent's just messed up because I was in front, half Chicago, half Luton. It's just messed up. I just sound weird. Everyone's like, you're a farmer. I'm like, am I? I don't know. I get the farmer thing a lot. And the arcade machine behind me is, I think it's got 4,000 games on it. Every game you can think of, all the Super Nintendo games, all the arcade games, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, every game you can possibly name is on there. So it's hours and hours of fun. But yeah, there's certain games I win at, certain games Tristan wins at. So we've kind of set the house rules of who the champion is. So it is.
As he says, controversy creates cash, as Eric Biscoff used to say. Armin, yeah. I'm sure this is down to data protection. He says, are there any Armenians in the war room?
We have people, I cannot say specifically, but let's put it this way. We have people in 50 countries. And Armenia, it's kind of obscure, but it's not that obscure. So you can work. Yeah.
Rebellion seems to be a big part of your life, then, Andrew, listening to what you've said. You know what I mean? A rebellion against various things, not in a disruptive kind of way. But where do you think that comes from, this initiative of yours, really to test the boundaries, to push things? And a lot of people watching this will probably disagree with your views on COVID. Yeah. I'm going for my jab today. I'm going to get my very first COVID jab. Are you getting a jab?
Nope.
No, there you go.
So yeah, and you're right. So first thing, with a lot of my views, I don't try and force them on anybody, right? A lot of people try and force their views on others. I have my views and I don't force them on anybody. I think the COVID jab should be open for anybody who wants to get it. I don't think they should try and force me to have one if I don't want one. That's the difference, right? Because a lot of people who are pro-COVID jab, they think that everyone should have them. They have to have them. I don't think it's fair to force me to have an injection. I don't think that's fair. I know that COVID can't hurt me. The statistics tell me that COVID can't hurt me. I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm strong. Why would I take a jab to protect me from something that can't hurt me? I'm more scared of an experimental jab, which has no long-term studies, than I am a disease which for sure cannot hurt me. And I don't think it's fair for any government or any group of people to come along and force an injection inside of me. That means I do not have control over my own body. I'm not allowed to decide what goes in my own body. It's like force feeding me. I don't think that's fair. I believe anybody should be allowed to have the injection if they choose, but I believe the idea of forcing someone to have an injection they don't want is tyrannical. And I think it's psychopathic. Let me not have it. If the injection works and you've had it, why are you worried about me? Let me get COVID. I'm not scared of COVID. Let me have it. It's fine. So I'm not going to get the jab. And yeah, there's a huge rebellious streak of me. And the reason for that is I don't believe that anybody else has my best interests at heart. I don't believe that the school really cared about me. I don't believe that governments really care about me. I don't believe that AstraZeneca with their vaccine really care about me. I believe the only person who genuinely cares about me and my life is me. I believe the only person who wakes up each day and goes, you know what, let's put some money in Andrew Tate's bank is Andrew Tate. I believe that when stuff really hits the fan, you're going to often look around and you might have one or two close people, but in general, you are by yourself. I don't trust anybody else. So when a government comes along and says, you need to live this way, I realize that's not for the benefit of me. That's for the benefit of the government. When AstraZeneca says you need this injection, they don't care if I have COVID. They want billions and billions of dollars, like every other huge company in the world. This is the fastest vaccine that's been produced in history. It took 8 years to produce a vaccine. The fastest vaccine before this one took 8 years. This one's pulled off in less than a year. And you're going to tell me they haven't cut a single corner? And if someone does get sick from the vaccine, the media won't report it because the media works with the pharmaceutical companies. So nobody knows what's happening with this injection. And I know I don't need it. So I refuse to take it. So I know that nobody else has my best interests at heart but me. So for that reason, I'm a rebel, right? A government cares about its people the same way that a farmer cares about its cows. It wants the milk. It wants them alive. It wants them healthy enough to slaughter and sell, but it doesn't really care if they're happy or not. No one cares that the majority of men out there are working slave jobs and are depressed and their wife won't even give them a hand job. No one cares about them. Nobody cares about people, right? So I only care about myself, and that's made me a rebel because I only trust me. I trust me. And that's why I can't be programmed. If I have had COVID and I had a really bad experience, and then I believe, okay, you know what, COVID's serious, I believe I need an injection, then I will go get one. But the fact that throughout this entire year, nothing as bad has happened to me, despite me breaking every single rule, I don't see why I'd inject something into myself. I don't care what it is. I don't see the point of it. So yeah, maybe I am a rebel, but I think a lot of it just comes from absolute self-trust. I don't have any faith. And one more thing I'll add into this. It's kind of funny. Once I got rich, when I was kind of like average income, I thought the rich, the elite of the world, were like these hyper-intelligent people. But I've sat around the Bugatti table. I've sat there with the other 10 people who bought $5 million cars. These are not smart people. They're not specific. They're not amazing human specimens. They're fat. They're lazy. They were late. They're drunk and sloppy. Like, you think that people at the top are any better than the average person. They're not. The people who work for AstraZeneca are not amazing people. They're just normal humans with marriage problems, and they're semi-depressed, sitting in traffic like everybody else. And the idea that these people will never make a mistake, or that these people are beyond corruption, that they won't sit there and go, oh, well, the vaccine won't hurt most people. A few people will die, but we'll make billions. You really believe that people are so good in their hearts, they're going to be like, no, we're not going to. They don't care. They don't care. Nobody cares. That's the way the world works. And the people at the very top have never cared. They locked us all in our houses and destroyed everyone's income. They didn't care. They don't care about us. So I'm a rebel because I don't trust these people. I don't trust them. That's all it is. It's just a matter of I only trust me. and people who I know and have a track record with who have been there for me when I need them to be. So for that reason, I don't trust very much, friend. I guess that's what made me a rebel. I guess maybe I just don't have much trust inside of me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Everyone's got their own opinions. Besides Romania, what other Eastern European country do you like, says Robert?
Yeah, I think all of Eastern Europe is the place to be. I think Eastern Europe is the future of Europe. I think that as Western European countries decline, Eastern European countries are on the way up because they have strong borders and they have strong nationalistic tendencies. Countries like Poland, like Slovakia, like Romania, they're very nationalistic. They fly the flag. You must respect their country. You can't come here and talk bad about their country. And I think this is a good place to be. I like all of them, but I prefer Romania the most. Romania is the least civilized of them all. Poland is very, very civilized, very clean. Romania is like 20 years behind, right? It's not civilized, but it's also very chaotic and very corrupt, but that suits me because I have money. So if I like living in a corrupt place when I have money. So if I want to drive at 300 miles an hour, as long as I have money in my pocket, it's not a problem. So I kind of like it here for that reason.
Your brother Tristan as well. I mean, I presume is he involved with you in the business, or is he kindly shared the link for today's show? Is he involved with you?
Yeah, we work together, we train together, we live together. I think that masculine power has always been based on brotherhood or gangs or armies. And when you have men around you who think like you, and the closer you are to those people, the more strong you'll be as a man. If you're by yourself or just you and your wife, it's as hard to be as mentally sharp as if you're with a bunch of other competitive men, right? It's the same reason you train in a fight gym with other fighters. You need other people around you. It's that mentality. And I try and keep that fight gym mentality in every aspect of my life. So I love living with other men trying to do the same things as me. So we have a big house and there's 4 of us guys who live here, and it's a good vibe. I like that atmosphere. I like the pressure of other guys. If he bench presses X amount, it pisses me off and I have to go try and beat him. I like that competitive element.
As he says, we have a divided society between people who think they are right and those who think others are wrong. It's weird. People can't have opinions. Whether you agree or disagree, we can't lose the debate.
Yeah, and this is the true mark. This is the true mark of manhood. So a lot of my friends completely disagree with me. And a lot of them have had the vaccine and they're completely fine. And I'm like, look, we can discuss this. We'll talk about it for 6 hours and then shake hands and stay friends. Nobody cares, right? But this is disappearing from the world now. If someone doesn't agree with somebody, they're having mental breakdowns. And this is a true tenet of masculinity, is that you can have someone who's your friend. You don't have to agree on every single issue, right? You don't have to. And there's nothing wrong with healthy debate, but we're getting in a world now where either debate is not allowed because it's banned, or certain subjects are completely taboo and can't even be discussed. Tommy will tell you about that. Or you can't debate something without losing someone as a friend for life. And that's a shame because the truth is always somewhere in between the 2 points. It's very rare that somebody's completely right. You have one person here and one person here, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. And if you're not going to discuss it and debate it, you're never going to get close to the truth. This is the reality. So yeah, as debate fails, as political correctness is enforced, as they remove debate from public discourse, we're going to get further and further from the truth, and we're going to end up in a fantasy land. And I think we're already halfway there.
Cryptocurrency, you mentioned it earlier on, Bitcoin, etc. Is that something which is been worth people getting involved in? I mean, it seemed to be a fad to me. It's not something that I thought would ever take off. And you've heard some horror stories, but also heard some positive stories. But again, I'm like you. I don't believe everything I read on the internet. Certainly don't believe anything I watch on TV.
Yeah, and it's when you say cryptocurrency, it's such a broad field. There's so many coins, there's so many different ways you can be involved. There's so many different things you can do. It's hard to sum it all up in one. If I had to try and surmise my overall view, I do believe that cryptocurrency is here to stay. I do believe it's never going to go to zero. It's always going to be around. The community around it's too big. The things it can do that traditional money can't do are too worthwhile. I can send $1 million to somebody now in, I don't know, Singapore or Indonesia with basically a few numbers, basically their email address. I can send $1 million. It's going to cost me $1 to do. No bank forms, no questions, no delays, No. Why is he sending money to Indonesia? Nothing. So it's too useful to the world. So for this reason, I do believe it's the future, and I do think that everybody should consider getting involved, certainly. Not you shouldn't be looking to get involved to get rich quick. It should be like very similar to buying a house. You're investing money, you're going to keep it there for a long time, the value is going to go up slowly, and in the end, you're going to be glad you did it. That's the way to look at cryptocurrency. If you're going to try and get in and get rich quick, then you're taking risks. And this is where you hear the big horror stories and also the big wins. But you don't want to gamble, right? You want to invest intelligently, and this is the way to do cryptocurrency, I believe.
Good way of describing it. Okay, we've got 2 more questions before we finish. Emil, great question. What has the pandemic taught you about how the world works, and what future do you see for the West?
The pandemic has removed the last faith I had in humanity. nice and positive. You know why? You look at World War II, and everyone said, how did the German people allow the Nazis to do that? And the answer is, well, the German people just did as they were told. And then you look at the pandemic and you see people just doing as they are told, ignoring their eyes, ignoring their ears. Like at the beginning of this, we saw all the videos of people in China falling over, dying. Nobody's seen that. You haven't seen anyone dying in the street. The hospitals are not full. You can go to the hospital right now. You can fall over, bump your head, go hospital. The hospitals are empty. There's no full hospital beds. Everyone's fine. Everyone you look around is fine. But because the news says pandemic, people still believe they're living in a pandemic. They don't trust their own eyes. They don't trust their own ears because the government has told them, just like the Nazis told the Germans, these people are bad, those people are bad, do this, do this. So I very much understand how the Nazis got away with what they did because the pandemic has proved that people have not learned a single thing. Nobody will wake up and look around and do what I did, travel the world, look for myself, see with my own eyes and realize I don't see any sick people. The COVID deaths. Yeah, but the deaths of the flu have gone down to 0. You've just labeled all the flu deaths COVID deaths. Everyone knows that. Everybody knows that because the flu deaths have gone from X amount a year to 0, and the COVID deaths have gone from 0 to back up to the same number. Everyone knows what's happened, but people are still sitting here going, the pandemic. There is no pandemic. So I am really, really amazed at how far this lie has continued. I'm amazed at how quickly everybody complied. I'm amazed at how, now people agree with me, many of them. But at the beginning of this, I was saying this. At the very start, people were calling me completely crazy. They'd delete me from Facebook. They would never talk to me again. I was a dangerous individual, right? For telling them that nobody should lock you in your house. I'm telling you, no one should lock you in your house, and you're mad at me? Like the majority of people are conditioned for slavery. And I mean that without disrespect. The movie The Matrix says it. Most people are so dependent on the system, they will fight to protect it. And most people are conditioned to slavery, and they're conditioned to just obey and comply and to work a job which doesn't reward them, and to make a little bit of money, and that money is worth less every single year, and the price of important things, houses and land, goes up every single year, and their wages never go up, and they're just going to sit there and stay broke and stay a slave forever. And this is how their mind is programmed. This is what they're conditioned for in their head. Most people are not really willing to wake up and look around them and understand what's happening, because the world is splitting right now. There's going to be elites. There's going to be people like me who can jump on a private jet with his 4th passport and go wherever he wants. And there's people who are still in their house because of quarantine. This is what I'm saying. There's people living 2 different lives right now. When I was flying on private planes, no one told me to wear a mask. Nobody asked for quarantine paperwork. Nobody cared because I was rich. This is what people don't understand. The world is splitting right now. Do you think all the people who make the COVID rules listen to the COVID rules? No, it's in the paper every single day. We catch some minister breaking the COVID rules. They're locking you in your house and disobeying. And people are not woken up yet to the fact that slavery is coming for those who are stupid enough to just blindly comply with the lies that are being told to them on television. So COVID has just proved to me that most of the world doesn't stand a chance. Most people are not really capable of thinking for themselves. And as for the future of the West, this is the same thing. The West is in decline because of all the things we can't discuss. Tommy isn't 100% right, but he's certainly at least part right. Let's put it that way. And we can't talk about it. We can't talk about how political correctness has destroyed our ability for men to stand up and say what they believe in. You can't even be nationalist anymore. You can't even be an English person who loves England and wants England to be English and for people to talk your language. You can't do anything. And this is the future of the West, because if you do those things, you are a bad person, because the news tells you you're a bad person. The TV, the brainwashing, the comply. And this is the future of the West. The future of the West are slaves and elites who ignore all the rules, and crime rates spiraling out of control, and land and property that no one can afford, and ever shrinking wages as most jobs go to robots. That's the future of the West, and that's why I left. So,
well, you've cheered me up, Andrew. No end. I'll leave the last question.
Sorry, bro. Sorry. Sorry.
I'm off to get me new passports and jump on a plane, mate, and taking my family with us, I think.
You're welcome here, bro. You're welcome here. I've got a house for you, no problem. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you, mate. Last question to Nick, and big shout out to Nick. He introduced me and Andrew, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch, which is what it's all about networking. He says, can you ask Andrew if he wants or he thinks Romania will leave the EU?
Good question. I do not think Romania will leave the EU. And I do, because Romania is Romania, and Romanians are scammers, and they're taking billions and billions and billions of taxpayer money from Germany to build highways which never get built and goes missing in corruption scandals. So it's all over the news here. Every single year, billions go missing in corruption scandals. So the Romanian government are just robbing the European Union dry. So for that reason, I don't think they're going to leave. The EU influence on Romania is real. It's starting to get a lot stricter. Like certain things here, there used to be basically no speed limit. Now they have speed traps. So things are starting to change here. The EU is starting to get it, but I don't think they're going to leave. I think they're just going to milk it for as long as they can. But I was super impressed by Belarus. I was in Belarus last week. I couldn't believe it. Clean, beautiful, nice streets, organized traffic, perfect, nice cars, Mercedes, BMWs. It was beautiful, super safe. Belarus super impressed me. So there's other countries to go to where you haven't got to worry about. I can walk this watch. This is a $250,000 watch. I wear this in Romania, Dubai, and Belarus. I would never wear this in London, never in a million years. So like there's certain places in the world which are still very, very safe, a good place to live. And Romania is one of them. But if that changes, I'll just keep heading east. If I end up in Moscow, I'll end up in Moscow. Like I refuse to live in a society where the police are going to get me in trouble for what I say, but they can't stop people from stabbing me to death. I refuse to live in that society. I don't think that's a fair place for me to pay my taxes. I refuse to do that. So whatever it is, I ain't coming back to England. So let's leave it at that.
Big shout out to our sponsor, Spider VPN, for all your internet security in the UK. Also, a big shout out to our sponsors for this month, Arcot Interiors, for all your kitchen designs. Give them a shout on www.arcotinteriors.com. Also, big shout out to John from QTech, shop.co.uk, makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the Jab Signature for sorting our flyers. First time visitor to the channel, click the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner. Hit subscribe. 39,000 subscribers now. Hit the thumb up to like the video and hit the arrow to share it. Drop into the comments section as well if you want to leave some comments, positive or negative. You might agree or completely disagree with what Andrew's had to say today. Fantastic, mate. Listen, been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to let you get back to the Romanian sunshine and doing whatever you do. Big thanks again to Nick for setting it up, and special thanks to you, mate, for being such a fantastic guest.
Thank you, friend. Thank you very, very much. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, let's stay in touch. And I'm going to play out, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this. This is coming out in July in all good supermarkets and some bad ones as well. My new documentary about the craze. Thanks very much, Andrew. Take care.
Cheers, friend.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
In post-war London, two promising boxers thrived as they rose from the ashes to become the most feared brothers in British criminal history. But in 1969, they were both sentenced to life in prison. This is the story of a young man's friendship with them in their final years. His friendship with Ronnie and Reggie Gray.
They were associating with celebrity, beautiful woman on Reg's arm. They drove fast cars. They were involved in bars and nightclubs. It epitomised everything that an influential 15-year-old mind on Tyneside would really want in life.
They fascinate a lot of people.
Wow, I've had a letter from Reg Cray. It was like a prized possession. He did say, I'd like you to go and see Ron.
Well, I think that instills a bit of fear into somebody when you know anybody's capable of doing something extreme.
He turns to me and says, I need you to get rid of Kate.
I knew I was sitting in front of someone who was a serious character.
They weren't bothered who they'd hurt, and they were just prepared to go the full hog.
You get killed. There's no easy way out of that one. You get killed.
Of course, they were feared, but there's two sides to every story.
They were from an era where they could be absolutely ruthless.
The thing about the bad guy is he never knows he's the villain of the piece. He thinks he's doing right, no matter what he does.
But had they been out and people been able to see him, no one would have respected that.
I'm close to getting out there. 4.5 decades. It's going to take me 6 weeks to visit all the fucking graves.